Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, again. Warm welcome to our first session of Digital Days. FCC's Digital Days is an interactive event series bringing together industry experts, companies to explore practical digital solutions for chemical distribution sector. Through engaging sessions and real-life case studies, participants can exchange insights, discover innovative tools, and identify opportunities to accelerate their digital transformation. The event is being recorded. My name is Diana, and I will be representing FCC today. Slide. Thank you. As you may already know, FCC is European Association of Chemical Distributors, and we represent around 1,600 companies via national associations and members, which cover the whole value chain. We are the only European association representing all chemical segments under one umbrella, all company sizes from startups to multinationals, and all chemical supply chain functions. We advocate for the interest of our member companies, especially SMEs, as many of our members are family-owned businesses. Distributors are at the heart of the value chains, providing a wide range of services from logistics to packaging to formulation, warehousing, and recycling. The European chemical distribution sector generates more than 28 billion annual turnover by adding the value throughout the chemical supply chain and beyond. So now a brief housekeeping note regarding the competition compliance. As you are aware, we will not discuss specific cases, pricing, or any topics that could be considered an infringement of European antitrust law. Regarding the Q&A, this is your opportunity to engage directly with our distinguished speakers, and you may submit your questions at any time using the Q&A box located at the top of your screen. And we encourage you to send the questions early so we can address as many as possible following the presentations. So it's my pleasure to present and introduce our distinguished speakers. Speakers, could you please turn on your cameras for a second? All of you. Thank you. So we would like to present to you Tom Schauffelen, General Manager and co-founder of ChemChimp, Joel Frankenberger. I'm sorry if I pronounce your surname not correctly from the first try. CEO and co-founder of Sybilion, Christoph Cabery, founder and CEO of SpecialChem, and Stephanie Kraus, CEO of Loady. So thank you very much for joining us today. Could you please then take over of the presentation? Tom, we will start with you.
Thank you, Diana, for the great introduction and the kind words. I think a pleasure to be here today. Of course, also from my side, welcome to all the participants in the webinar and to my fellow colleagues of the Digital Days. Looking forward to have nice things. Nina, I will ask you to move forward. I think it's the quickest, if you agree. Okay, we can move to the next one. So I think many of you know me already, and we are a bit of a particular case in the bunch. So I represent ChemChimp, and we are a company that specifically is building digital solutions targeting niche, high-impact challenges in the chemical sector. Next one. So most of you know me very well from our first launch, which is called ChemSmog, as you can see on the top left of the screen. We are currently in the development of two other applications that will be launching this year. One is already through its first testing phase, and we already put also some other names of things we are already working on for the near future. So just to give you an impression, often you heard me, there was always a discussion, who are we and what do we do? So now hopefully it's getting a bit clearer. Next one, Nina. So how did everything come to life? So the company got founded in 2022. And the first commercial launch we had from a solution was ChemSmog, which launched in 2023. And as you can see, we've had several success stories throughout our existence of the company. I think one of the key elements for us, of course, being part of both FECC and the Italian National Association for the chemical companies. Next one, Nina. So I will sort of walk through some of the solutions we're building, but in a sense, in a reverse order. I will start with the ones that are less developed, and then I will end on our solution that has been live since 2023, just to show where we stand today, some case studies, and what we have developed. Next one, Nina. So one of the solutions we are planning to launch by the end of this year is called the inverse marketplace, where we see there's a growing needs dilemma. So instead of having a clear need for a certain chemical, more and more companies are looking for specialized services and process partners. However, there is not a clear way to track them down. Next one. And what we want to do is we want to build this type of operating layer that will help this kind of information sourcing, where instead of finding a certain product, it's about finding demand finding the supply. And we will do so by building this digital suite where companies can actually sell their requirements. So we're going to flip the table slightly. And this is, the plan is to have this ready by the end of this year, where we'll do the first testing with some of our clients in the network. Next one, Nina. So the next solution we have is our auction house. And if you can just jump forward, perfect. So we developed the auction house based on some requests from the clients. And actually we see that with all the ongoing geopolitical stress, having a single way to sell larger lots has become very interesting and very particular. So what we did in the end is a very straightforward e-auction house, where we actively help companies to market and to position larger lot materials. Next one. Next slide. No, thank you, Nina. So this happens through a very straightforward, in the end, classical bidding process. So as you can see on the screen, I used an example of a material that we received from a client, where you can see it's a quite a large inventory. And the client specifically mentioned, I don't want to go through the hassle of selling single bags in this case. So what we have is this kind of competitive setup where people can view all the necessary information and place a bid. Of course, from our side, we verify participation. So we ensure that the users are part of, they go through due diligence. We help, of course, protect the value by having a single lot in a bidding system. And through this digital approach, we have several opportunistic ways to promote the material. So in general, from this perspective, what we want to offer to the people is, of course, in a digital fashion, you have your single lot simplicity. You can access potentially new markets because, of course, here there is no geographical boundary. This can be positioned and promoted anywhere where we want. You have the potential to acquire new customers because people are aware of which products are in your portfolio. I think an important thing at the moment is, of course, to have a reduced time to cash. Everybody is having issues, and we have to make sure that we don't remain with frozen assets. You can adapt to the ever-changing market, and you have, again, the flexible visibility. So I think that was, in summary, some of the smaller things we're developing and that are in a more of an infant state. For me now, of course, I will highlight one of our key developments, that's ChemSmog. If you move forward, Nina. So I think this is a story I've shared already a few years. I think this remains ever more evident, that we have what I call the chemical inventory dilemma. So between 4 and 6% of production volumes annually remain left behind. It can either be unsold, unused, or can have any other reasons why they remain in warehouse. And this is, of course, something we would love to tackle. So what we have built, we have designed a quite user-friendly B2B marketplace that specifically focuses on these underutilized chemical inventory. So it's a pure niche focus system, where on top we have a proprietary data-driven model that helps us to really rapidly match potential buyers with the sellers with in-house developing algorithms. So just to be sure, because this is one of the key points we hear often, and indeed we use the word smog indeed to draw also some attention. For us, it's about the slow-moving goods. And that can be a vast array of materials. So from near expiry, expired, out of spec, you name it. We tackle practically all the materials. One of the key elements, if you move to the next slide, Nina. Thank you very much. Is of course to understand the complexity that we service, and I think many of you are very well aware the complexity of the industry, where what I call there is a sort of matchmaking surface. So the more complex a material, the more finished a good becomes. Of course, your surface area where you can potentially reposition shrinks. So of course, there is a sort of sweet spot that we need to find. Next one. So in general, I think, and it speaks quite for itself. So we want to unlock the value of assets that are on the ground. So you can create new revenue streams. You turn your cost into potential growth. You're reducing your waste-related expenses. So materials standing in warehouse, taking up space, and potentially also introducing the cost of the full out waste disposal. And I think a key element that we're trying to develop more and more is to help companies actually make what I call greener purchasing opportunities. Next one. So also in this case, again, here we are a little bit more down the line, and we take this, of course, in a much more strong fashion. So we get companies onboarded to our network that can be either on the side of supplying us materials or the buying of the materials. We will have a due diligence process to follow up. Then we have our, as mentioned, matchmaking process, where it's our job to help companies to find those potential buyers for the materials. We broker the deal on their behalf, and then we are all the way till the end. We are part of the deal, so we are part until the final execution. So we follow up even if needed on all kind of logistics. So I think key aspects where actually we are very proud. So we run the system on no exclusivity. So we sort of run in parallel to your existing business. In the meantime, you can continue, or if you see an internal use, you can go ahead. Products, of course, are sold as is. I think that is quite straightforward, but it's always a very important element to mention. The deal is transparent, so we share the potential buyer with the seller. So we don't hold anything back there. We, of course, customize the service based on the needs. And it's a final point, but for me, one of the most important points we have is the no cure, no pay. So we take our fair share, so our commission upon successful completion of the deal. So we don't ask for any upfront cost. We will provide our service to cater to your needs. And at the moment, we are adding an important element, and I will highlight this a bit more in detail. And that's about, of course, what is the actual sustainable impact we're delivering. So as you can see, we have sort of what we call the standard scenario and our ChemSmog scenario. So in a standard life cycle of a product, it gets from production through this various steps in the value chain to the let's say unfortunate part of the grave. Hopefully in the future significant recycling. And what we actually do is where it is standing still in a warehouse, we sort of re-loop the material back, and we try to find somebody else. So we add a step, but of course the prime goal is to utilize the chemicals and not let them go to waste without being used at the maximum capacity. So of course, having the vision is one part. The final part for us was indeed to get this quantified, to really measure what this means. So we performed an LCA study on one of our earlier deals in the system. And we actually got the result that around 67% of CO2 emissions are reduced. So on the vendor side, you're actually clearly avoiding disposal. You're creating some revenue, and therefore you're reducing your emissions. And on the customer side, you're actually avoiding the production phase of the material because it's existing in the market. And together with the company, we could really quantify that. You lower your cost. You're buying an opportunistic material, so you can buy at reduced market price. And overall, also here, the emissions are important. Next one, please. So I think especially for this crowd, for me, it's important to also highlight some of the success stories. So to show you what it means, how we handle the steps, and what are in this case, I put some emphasis on the sustainable part. So this is an example where we sold around 3,000 cartridge filters. I think quite familiar. It's not a chemical in this case, that's true, but this is of course highly used in our industry. And you can see on the vendor side, there is a reduction, especially on the customer side, because you're avoiding production. And yeah, we are very proud here because we're saving approximately, let's say, 18 flights between Milan and Barcelona in this case. Next one, please, Nina. So then we have a bit of a larger example. So this is one of our partners that was actually very happy to to work with us. This was a company situated in the north east of Italy, and they had two very large lots available due to a shift in demand and client requisitions. And I think even if I remember correctly, for the hydrogen peroxide, which is the first line, it actually went slightly below their spec. So instead of 60%, it dropped down to around 54%. And here you can see once, of course, volume starts shooting up, the impact starts having a significant factor as well. So I will not go into our famous description of the flights. For me, of course, the important element with this, and also our client was extremely pleased, and they signed a letter of appreciation. We saved approximately 680 tons of CO2 emissions, and I think this is for us one of the key steps that we made last year. And the final case. Oh, so sorry. And the final slide. So from my side, of course, the key thing here is don't let your inventory go to waste. You know, there is time. There are several solutions. We are building a successful track record. We do this in several ways. This is something we learned over the various discussions I even had at the FECC conferences in real life. So we offer end-to-end sales support. So we just handle the entire process on your behalf. You give us the right information and we take care of the rest. We have the option to set up virtual shops, so you can handle really your sort of virtual shop on the platform. We will of course give you all the support and tech support that you require, and any kind of tailored solutions. As you saw, we are working now with e-auctions and other kinds of solutions that you might think are interesting. This also connects, of course, to how we want to market materials, how we want to expose what you have, at least what you would like to get moved. So for those interested, you can always reach out either through the FECC team. Always very grateful to have them on board, or directly to myself. And I'm confident we can identify a model that works best for you. Thank you. That was it from my side.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tom. It was very interesting to listen, and actually, like about flipping the table, you definitely did. And considering that now the production of the chemicals will also be raised with the prices and complicated with the supplies and etc., it will definitely benefit the industry, I'm sure. Please keep us updated on the progress of the tool. And Pjol, you're next to take the presentation over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Diana. I'm Pjol, the CEO and co-founder of Sybilion. The core of what we're doing is here on one page, right? It's about external volatility, how we can look into the world, understand it better with all the statistical data that is there, and then use AI technology to break it down on the key product level and the key decision level that you're focused on as chemical distribution. And yeah, this is a brief overview of what we're going to be covering today. I brought some demo videos, case studies, and we'll also have a look at our live demo. So maybe very quickly, we are around since the end of 21. I have with me a team of around 15 people now. Most of them are in the modeling space, statistics people, machine learning people, also industry people. And we are also in a lucky situation, let's say, where we have ample ammunition on a financing level to really bring value to our customers now. Please, next slide. So this is the main issue that we all know about, right? So we are talking about this since more or less 5 years now with COVID, and then unfortunately the ongoing disruptions now in the Middle East again. This has a real cost, and that's essentially where we are focused on, right? So everything that's outside of your company, which is hard to capture and hard to really factor into your decisions. Now we see that a lot of existing systems, right, or old routines, if you like, have problems in catching up because volatility is picking up, but also because decision windows are shorter, right? So things change much more quickly. And last point, please. Yeah, so it's hard to keep up with the pace of what's happening in the world. Next slide, please. Yeah, so you see here, it's quite expensive. A 3 to 5% timing error has a real impact on your baseline, right? So if you have a purchasing spend of 100 million, we're talking several million, 3 to 5 million essentially in impact. The main reason why we have this problem at the moment is because there is a lot of fragmentation in signals. Decisions live in Excel, they live in meetings maybe, but that is not the most ideal way to really catch up with what's happening in the world. And so what we bring, what you can see on the after slide now, please. Yes. So this is the point, right? So you move from a fragmented decision-making process to something that is explicit, data-driven, where you understand where the risk is coming from, so you can align the team, you can commit in time, and you're proactive rather than reactive. What is the core of what we do, right? So there's all this data you have, you're buying different market reports, you have your own data. And what we say is, that is only capturing a small part of what's happening. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is all we bring in. So more than 1 trillion data points from various sources, right? So everything from freight rates to weather anomalies, social media sentiment, commodity prices. This is all data that we buy for you, that we make forecasting and decision ready, if you like. And we find out what are the pieces of the puzzle that really improve your decision making, if your scenario modeling process, basically. In one word, so we're the outer world intelligence layer that captures all this external world in data. This is a short video. Let's have it, please. Hey, thank you. Yeah, so in a nutshell, what are the things that we can tackle with what you just have seen? And we see a typical case, please press the button. Yeah, so on the procurement side, of course, where it's usually procurement timing windows that are of interest. And maybe, I have some products in the US and I have some that I can source locally. And I want to understand how those regional prices move and what is the best product for me to move now. Then there's, of course, a demand side, which is also very operational, where it's about the important markets, for example, right? Regions that move or industry level. And next one as well is. Now, of course, overall, I can also look at risk factors like geopolitical risk. How's the influence of those risk factors on my stability, on the stability that I need in my operations? And the final point that we also understand is very important relates to growth in new markets, right? So where we look at segments that you're maybe not familiar with yet, but you want to understand how they could move and what decisions you should take to tackle those markets. Now, what that practically means, let's have a look at some of our customers, please. Thank you. Maybe a bit of detail what we are doing here. So it's a classic sourcing case, right, where you have certain base materials. Of course, this is a bit more in the polymer market, but it's about understanding how propylene prices move, right, or other main base materials for more complex compounds. How could that impact our timing decisions? And what we do here, so maybe, yes. So we essentially model different influence factors. We capture what has over 10 years really influenced the price of certain materials, what is a reliable relationship. But we also work closely with the team of Andre together to unlock essentially forecasts and scenarios that they really understand, that they feel comfortable with. And there's a real margin impact here with very important decisions that we support correctly. Yeah, next, please. Yeah, if I may also offer some context here. This is, of course, more on the base chemical side, where we're looking at products like acetic acid or acrylic acid, phenol. And it's about understanding, because one of the main advantages SpecialChem Group has is that they're an importer from China. And it's understanding the movement between the Chinese market and the European market to better make those decisions around pricing and timing, again, of purchasing. And also here, we work closely together with the team, both in Europe and in China. And the goal is here, of course, to support, again, very sizable decisions for this company that have a real impact on their business and the bottom line. Maybe some examples from industries that you might sell to. So we are also active a bit more on the application side. So one customer here is from the textile market. There it's about understanding how demand moves versus the input cost or the sourcing cost I have. If I know my demand is strong, I can be more aggressive in my pricing. And if my input price moves against me, I can give that cost to my customer. But if that's not the case, right, then I need to find other ways of securing my margin. And here we know it's a 2 to 3% profitability increase that we unlocked for them. And one more example, more generally from the textile and chemical fiber space. The next slide, please. Yeah, so that's just more about market entries. This is what we did with one of the major players in this space. They are, produce of viscose fibers, for example, that go into a number of applications as well. And here it's more about understanding how you could position a new fiber within the global market. And what are the main markets here? How do they move? Where should we focus on? Is this a real opportunity that satisfies our investment cost? Thank you. Next slide, please. To get started with us, it's rather simple, right? So we usually work in a 4+4 week trial where we together look at the decisions you actually want to take. And then we identify what are the data sets, what data do you have, what data do we have? Does the performance of the scenario, of the future scenario, fit your needs? Maybe there's some comparison internally we can do, right? And once you feel happy with that, if you see it's much better than what we had before, it could save us several million each year, then we would move forward to go on to an ongoing contract with you. Yes, please, next slide. Yeah, so I would like to briefly show you also in this venue what the platform actually looks like. So I will take control now. And so that's just one example that, I mean, a lot of this is, for demo purposes, of course, but what it shows here is, I think, 3 key points. So first of all, whatever you see here can be completely fine-tuned to your use case. And
I'm sorry,
why do
Bill?
we? Yes.
We see you.
You mainly see me. So if I go off, do you see what I'm sharing now? There we are.
Just a second. Now we can see it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So what we are seeing here is a dashboard that can be fully fine-tuned to your needs, right? So it is for one specific business case that relates to a company that has its main markets in the automotive space across Europe, China, and the US, and has also MMA as one of their main products. So obviously what they're thinking about is, how does the demand move across those 3 markets, but also how does my price move, because that is impacting me in the end. And what differentiates us is, in the end, that we combine several modeling capacities, right? So if you go, let's say, to ChatGPT and you ask a random question, you will not get a very smart answer. If it's about, trends like in the industrial production space or in the chemical price space. Now, why do we provide better answers? because first of all, we have this modeling, this scenario building knowledge, right? So this is a specialized machine learning model that uses these kind of factors, that identifies also the factors that we could use to create the most accurate scenarios possible. And that's a base scenario, right? And then you can see here, it uses things such as industrial production in automotive as one of the main predictors for automotive production in the US. And that usually has a 4 to 11 month lag, meaning this data set moves first before industrial production automotive US moves. And finding these factors, right, and then creating a model that uses several of these factors so that you have a scenario you really understand, that's one of our core expertise that we bring. And here you see also a news stream that is essentially related to the product itself, which updates also over time. You can also analyze this forecast, so it's not a purely point-based forecast. You always have uncertainty, right? And why is this important? Because maybe you care about a certain threshold, right? So you say, if industrial production output goes somewhere between here 80 and 105 on the index in January, then I have a problem, right? So what is the likelihood that it stays within this? And then you see here, it's a 75% likelihood. Or you have a different question, which is usually a price question. I have a problem if the price goes, let's assume this was a price data set, right? So let's think I have a problem if the price goes over 109. And then you can also see here the risk you have for every month that the price goes above or stays below that particular level. And that's very much on the modeling side. But what we can also do for you, you can then also analyze all the data with a special forecasting body, yeah, your digital assistant that is fine-tuned to those data sets. So it has the context of all the data that you have subscribed to, but it can also be fine-tuned to exactly the questions you want to answer, right? So because, again, this is something where you want to make sure that it's very well calibrated and it doesn't make up things that are not true. And this is our expertise, right? So that's essentially, if you ask a question like where the trends are going in MMA and vehicle demand, you want a good answer. And that is what this model can do for you. And you see here sort of an initial assessment of where the trends are heading, which regions you should prioritize. And then you can ask it follow-on questions to get deeper to what you want to know, right? So maybe you have a question, of all these MMA products I have here, which one has the biggest risk of going beyond my budget limit, or which has the highest risk of price increase? Essentially, that is it in a nutshell. What we are also now doing is that you can chat with the modeling itself, and you can enter information here, such as, I heard from my customer, or I heard in the last trade fair that things are actually a bit better than this scenario is showing. Could you create an alternative scenario? And this would then also show up here on this screen. So you have all the information in one place. Okay, thank you very much. I think, Nina, if you could just bring up the last slide, if that's possible. Yeah, so this is us. You can find us in the internet, of course. Please feel free to reach out at any time. We're also at the ChemSpec in May, for example. If you're there, we would be very happy to meet you. My name is Bill Frankenberger. This is Sybilion, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Bill. I think that's a great tool to stay on track in the chemical industry, which is now quite unpredictable. So I think a lot of companies and chemical distribution companies can also benefit from it to know where they have to put their efforts in. etc. And you definitely outsmarted me with your tool, saying how you differentiate just regular AI from your tool and how you can actually use it effectively. Thank you. So now we have Christoph Cadbury. Please take over. Are you taking over the presentation too, right?
Yep, if I may.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Good, thank you, Diana. Okay, let's see. So can you see that full screen now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, it's a pleasure to be in front of you today. Thank you, FECC, for having me, and thank you for being so numerous participants. I'm Christoph Cadbury, as Diana mentioned. I'm the founder and CEO of SpecialChem, and today I'm going to talk about the going from data chaos to master data, and I will more specifically deal with the type of data, which is the product data. Tomorrow you will have a bit more insights from our partner, Agilis, dealing with product data, but also all the types of data that is kind of chaotic in our industry, and how to structure that so that you can really digitalize and basically grow to a superior level of performance. A few words about SpecialChem, 25 plus years in the industry, 120 employees. You probably know us out of the platform, the material selection platform, which is the origin of the company that I created as I left a company you would call Arkema today. So I've spent all my career in the industry, by the way. And so, yeah, 500,000 members, so chemical buyers, a member of it, from close to 200,000 companies. Last year, we had 9 million visits from buyers, and they were having like 6 million projects to develop a new skincare cream, a new ink, a new composite part, etc., to get information on the product they need. The material selection platform is about offering the industry master catalog. So we have digitized. The goal is to have all of them. It's like the horizon. You never really go to the horizon, but our job is to find all the products from every supplier in the world, focusing on specialty chems, and kind of organize this information, digitize it, standardize it, and offer that to the formulators and the engineers in the world. So that's what we've been doing over the last 25 years. And over the last years, we really focused on becoming the master catalog. So with a very strong commitment on maintaining the data, on making it up to more and more up to date, bigger and bigger. So that's a bit like a daunting task, but this is what we are crazy enough to accept the challenge. And we besides the coatings ingredients, the plastics, the polymer additives, the cosmetics, we are expanding in 2026 into new industries like pharma, food, animal nutrition, HI&I, so to complete basically the pack. Couple of slides quickly to tell you the clients that are using our services. Basically the way, for those who know us, and I know there are many of them here in the attendance, we are selling digital marketing services to these companies, producers, and more distributors. Why am I showing that? I'm not really going to speak in details about these kind of services, which are the historical services of the company, so digital marketing solutions. I'm more going to focus on other aspects that are more related to data. A couple of years ago, I had several distributors to digitize, to define their digital strategy, and I realized that for a number of them, they were having a big problem of data, and especially product data. And basically, we're going to come back to the finding of this, but not having structured data in 2026, especially product data, is really a hurdle in growth, and probably very detrimental going forward. Why? Because buyers, they want a self-serve experience. They want to go by themselves and explore by themselves the products they need. They go on different sources, and they need to find you through the products. They are much more digital than before. The younger purchasers are now taking the power in many supply departments of or lab departments in the formulators and buyers of chemicals. They initiate the first contact. There is an explosion of product information to sell, regulatory, certificate, sustainability. The sales forces are aging, and they go to retirement with a lot of product knowledge that is not structured, not captured, and then that is whole wealth that is leading the company when they go. And then product traceability is now a must for regulators, brand, and more retailers. If you see what's happening in the cosmetic industry, that's something very, very strong. And of course, you need a lot of digitized product information if you want to use it to be part of the AI revolution. Typically, if you want to have AI-enabled product recommendation tools, like probably you're going to have in the next years on your website, that your salespeople would love to have in their own systems to support their product recommendation, cheminformatics, AI-enabled formulation. If you don't have your data that is digitized, structured, it's not going to be possible to do that. Now, the status of what I found when I dealt with these companies, leading distributors in Europe to transform and digitize, basically the product information was mostly analog, in paper and in PDFs, dispersed in many different formats, different tools, not standardized and not quality controlled. Actually, what the structuring of product information means is to create product master data and to go from ungoverned data today, scattered, into something that is much more ordered. And the order means, in this case, having a product master data that is basically product information that is digitized first, so in a database that can be used by digital systems, centralized in one place, standardized, and there is no real standard today to describe chemical products, quality control and maintain. Then, if you've got that, then you can distribute this data to people, salespeople, so that they sell better, to customers, on customer portals, your website, HSC team to digitize our processes, digital channels, your website, customer portals, digital platforms like SpecialChem if you want to be part of that, for example, IT systems, of course, ERP, CRM, BI, and of course, AI agents. Feeding AI agents with unstructured data is a very, very risky business, and you would be very, very much probabilistic and not deterministic in how you are going to use these tools, which can be very detrimental when you need to be deterministic. And this is the case in most circumstances in the chem industry, to be deterministic, not probabilistic. So what you need to create your product master data, two things. Data, of course, structured the right way, digitized. You obviously need a software that is enabled to capture the richness, the nuances of your data, the entire set of data of yours, manage the access, make sure that you can feed all your different systems and teams through it, as well as the know-how to create the master data. And this is not something very trivial, because you need to understand what you want to do with the data in details, including in advanced things like AI systems, connectivity with other systems, to be able to determine how you want to structure your data. So, and if one of these pieces is missing in your puzzle, it's going to be very difficult to have a product master data that is going, in one shot to success. So what you are proposing here is, and maybe you see the link with what I presented initially as the historical business of SpecialChem, being the platform of choice to select materials. We have developed over the years a real expertise in structuring product data and actually combining the catalogs of 6,000 companies into one meta catalog so the master catalog of the industry, we have created in many ways master data, several master data for our usage, and now we use this know-how to basically offer solutions to the industry. We have joined forces with Agilis, as I mentioned. Maybe a number of you know them. Maybe you know Jay, the founder of Agilis. He's an ex from BASF, Shell Chemicals, and Hexion. And we joined forces with the two companies to create IonicPIM and IonicPIM solutions. So, as I mentioned, the three pillars, software. Here, the starting point of many distributors we are working with and is the following. They all have an ERP, and this is the only place where there is a product reference today that is structured. And in many cases, they have several ERPs, not only one, because of acquisition, because of legacy systems. And a lot of the documents they need, TDS, SDS, MSGS certificate, are scattered all around in different systems, in different emails, and basically not really aggregated. And the systems don't talk to one another. So in the software, we propose software solutions called IonicPIM, and this is a product information management system, the first that is chemical specific. We have put all the knowledge of the two companies, the software as a service know-how of Agilis, and the data structuring of SpecialChem into this platform that we are offering now. It is an empty one. We don't offer it full of data. You're going to put your data into it, but we're going to help to restructure your data so that you are reaching your objectives. And this is very, very important. So it's pre-configured for chemicals with all the nuances of commodity chemicals, specialty chemicals, API, excipients, additives, fillers, polymers, all this we know pretty well, how they are defined, branded products, unbranded products, how you have to structure them to then do whatever you want in the future. This system is also offering document management so that it is not just a super database, it's also stocking all the documents about the products in one place. We offer document edition automatically, so you can automatically create your TDS as your certificate and many other things directly. And it is easily integratable with other systems like your ERP, your CRM, and so on. So software is the first piece. But software alone, if you don't have the know-how on how to structure it, how to use it, even though it is pre-configured for the chem industry, it's going to be very difficult to reach the objectives you're having in terms of digitalization, in terms of making your customers more, finding your products more easily on your channels, on your catalogs, or et cetera, et cetera. All of these potential use cases are going to be very difficult if you don't have specific know-how on how to do things. And the number of questions you have to ask yourself before creating product master data is literally immense. And we have gone through that for ourselves, SpecialChem, but also through projects with clients like, for example, Barents, or like Solevo, or Terra Chemicals, or Elementis, and a number of others. With whom we have done this kind of work. So distributors today, the starting point is that they have no data governance, especially not for product. There is no product naming convention or coding convention that is across the board. Yes, for ERP, but not for all the usages of product information. There is a lot of SKU structuring, but not product structuring in most companies. No product creation workflows, or yes, but just for the ERP, once again, not for the entire other usages of product information, discrepancies between countries. So many questions here, and basically the needs to review some of the fundamental processes before even undertaking a creation of product master data. So what we come with here is several folds. The solution is that, first of all, you benefit from 25 years of experience doing so for ourselves. We have done all the mistakes you can imagine in structuring product information, really a lot. That costed a lot of money to us, but now I think we have reached a level that is now pretty satisfactory. And you would benefit also from the project's experience we have gained with many distributors, which means we could overall recommend the project's goals, because structuring your data is very important, and it is going to basically feed many processes in the company, making yourselves better, having your customers choosing by themselves the product they need, digitalizing your regulatory processes, streamlining your document management, having one source of truth to enable all the systems communicate with one another. So that's a lot of use cases. But what are your use cases? The most important ones. That's very important to determine that. And because of this know-how, we think we can bring some value here in helping you doing that. Same thing with selecting the best use cases, estimating the ROI. Once we know what you want to do, we can estimate the ROI of this use case, which is pretty nice to know beforehand. And also how to best organize and run your master data, as well as working with you on creating your workflows. And here, we don't even talk about implementing a software, just looking at how you deal with data today and how you should revise this to be to reach your objectives, basically. And the last part, the third bullet here, that's about data. Obviously, that's the fuel, basically, data that's put into most of your system, and most of the processes you are dealing with today are based on data. In this case here, what we see is that the data, product data, most companies have digitized is the one that is in ERPs to transact, basically. SKUs, not product. There's a lot of missing data and documents. Commercial info itself is not always structured. It is very rare when it is structured. And again, the ERP data is good, but it is in most cases just on product that have been sold, transacted, not on all the products you as distributor could sell, typically. So this is also something, an enrichment that needs to be done much beyond the ERP data. And of course, there is a lack in many cases of resources, especially in these days, to edit the product data itself and to people having the knowledge and the time to do that and put that into a system. So what we offer here is several folds. We, of course, based on what we have been doing historically, we have a team of more than 40 people who are able to understand your data and edit it in your system, able to design your exact data model in your system, responding exactly to your needs. If you want to do AI recommendation, it's not exactly the same data set that you need versus streamlining your regulatory processes, as you can imagine. So we understand these processes, and we go back and engineer your data model so that you can do that. Taxonomies, we can provide the list, the taxonomies of SpecialChem. We can edit your data at the initial edition. We can, of course, also edit your data on a recurring basis over time with the updates. And we can enrich your data also with some of the data from the SpecialChem master catalogs. Like, for example, you are selling product A, we can tell you these are the alternatives to product A, typically, so B, C, D, E, F, G, from all these different companies. And last but not least, we are also providing regulatory updates directly into your system. For every time there is a change in a regulatory list somewhere in the world, California, Proposition 65, the Chinese list of cosmetic ingredients, etc. All this we know immediately. We digitize the information and send that into our clients' product information management. So, in a nutshell, data, know-how, and software, the three pillars that we can provide you a solution with, so that you can create your own product master data. Once you got that, what you can do, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I guess you have understood the different directions to which you can use your product master data. I'm going to insist on one aspect, which is getting more customer, and this is a general topic today, seeing the state of the business. Here, typically, once you've got your data structured into IonicPIM, you can, in one click of a button, you can create your online catalog on your website or on your customer portal or on any type of digital channels that you would like. So, and then you're offering that to the outer world, to users, humans, but also to search engine robots, but also to LLMs also if you want, so that they can reference you as a credible source of information about this or that product, and you'll be able to be coming up out of the searches that we'll be making in ChatGPT, in Claude, Anthropic, Suite, Gemini, and the others. That's one aspect. The other aspect is that you can have your online AI-enabled selection bot, making your customers externally, but internally, your own salespeople also ask query, basically, this data that you have structured to find the product that is the best for this very client that is having this kind of requirements. That's again, it's not just a simple query; it's a dialogue you create with the machine, and it is basically empowering the users using it, making a much better, much faster product selection. And another thing here is on the SpecialChem platform. Once you got all your data that is structured in IonicPIM, then what you can do, you can plug that onto the SpecialChem platform with a new service that we call Who Can Supply. Basically, out of the 500,000 products we got on the SpecialChem platform, it is essentially product from producers that we are referencing here. Now we are offering to the distributors the ability for every product that is on the SpecialChem platform to say, hey, I'm distributing this product in country A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then we can reference you on the platform. And then you can get requests, typically from people, requests for quotes, requests for samples, and a whole set of new, let's say, leads from customers you know or might not know. To then, it's a new way to use the SpecialChem channel. It is a very effective channel for lead generation. Last year, we had 9 million people searching for products. So you could benefit from that. And we are launching that now in the coming month. Well, I don't want to use too much of your time. If you want to go further with your product master data solutions, if you want a demo of the PIM, IonicPIM, if you want to talk about whatever along these topics, I'm more than welcome. You got here my email address. More than welcome to exchange with you. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you again, FECC, for organizing the Digital Days.
Thank you so much, Christophe. It's very, very mighty tool as it seems to be, as it seems to appear. And it's visible that you're updating every year. Every year during the Digital Days, we see you here. And we're happy to see the progress that you're making, and especially in the times when European Commission / EU is trying to define which chemical is most, and I quote here, special chemical right now. So this tool can actually help to manage the situation, possibly in the future even more. So good luck with that. Thank you very much, Christopher, your presentation. And we're moving on to our last, but definitely not least speaker, our precious Stephanie, who will present Loady. Stephanie, the floor is yours.
Yes, I will share. I hope it goes without any problems, because I have some more demos. So I would directly start with the presentation tool, but we need to see if you already see the window or if you don't. I think now you should see it, right?
No, Stephanie, it just turned off. Can you try again?
Okay.
Just a second. I think it's loading.
So let's give it a minute.
Yeah.
I think I better share my 1 second. I will try to share my entire screen, which usually works a bit better than if I go for. So, do you see my screen now with the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So today we've heard a lot about trade, about decision-making tools, forecasting, commerce, marketplaces, and master data, which for sure is one of my favorite topics. But I want to show you something that you can do with great master data today. And when we say that the new solution that we have developed It's called electronic previous load restriction checks. Doesn't sound so nice, but it will be, or it already is, really a game changer in chemical transportation. And I will briefly explain why. This is especially important if you are doing drop shipments, because it really helps to save costs. It improves efficiency tremendously. It helps you fit with existing procedures that are now starting at your suppliers or at your customer site. And for sure, it's a special thing for digital collaboration in logistics. So this is what we will talk about now. I'll try to make the theoretical part really brief, not present entire Loady again, but to show you how this works. And I think you will directly understand why this is important and what advantages it will bring. So first of all, previous load restrictions is especially important if you have liquid bulk transports. Well, it's about ensuring that the previous loads match with the restrictions that you or your customers have defined for the products that are being transported. And the first thing why this is important in general is it is an important cost factor. Meaning that if I work with a carrier, well, and I have lots of restrictions, it's logical that my carrier cannot use the entire equipment they have. So in itself, it already means that I only have a restricted availability of equipment that can serve me, and that means that it's always more cost intensive. The second part, for sure, if it does not work with the restrictions and I do have product contamination, well, it's always very costly if this happens, because it means that tens or hundreds of thousands of euros are lost in case of one transport that needs to be, well, put back again or go to waste and be destroyed. So it also has not only quality, but also safety implications. Third, the complexity in terms of load restrictions, of previous load restrictions, is growing because the companies, the suppliers, and also the customers who receive your goods, they have had their experience, they have collected their experience during the last, well, 20, 30 years. And so usually we've seen an example previously, a lot of this information is handled in PDFs, in Excels, in some internal databases, which are not always easy to manage. And finally, it means that people are taking the phone again and asking, look, if I had this product in the tank, can I use it? So it's just about the complexity is growing, not because of chemical complexity, but especially because of bad experiences. And for sure, it also means that the costs are much higher than expected, because wrong previous loads or not matching the previous load restrictions means, well, it's one of the most typical cause for truck rejections in liquid bulk transport, which means always you have waiting times, you have discussions, you have extra trips, you have extra cleaning, you have lost slots, and in cases of the producers, they even have shutdowns related to this fact. So just in a nutshell, it means that previous load restrictions do matter, and it's also that they really become a critical operational constraint in distribution. If you work with multiple suppliers, if you are in a multi-product environment, and if you need to satisfy your suppliers' processes, which are now working with a digital solution like the one that we are presenting. So it's part of the future process of collecting goods. So just very briefly about previous load restrictions, how they are managed in Loady, and then we see what we can do with them. Those of you who don't know Loady, Loady is a centralized neutral data hub for managing everything related to requirements for transport on site, loading point, unloading point, and product level, which means that it's about geo coordinates and addresses. It's about opening times and closing days. It's about existing infrastructure on place. It's about the needed technical equipment or the PPE somebody needs to bring. It's about the processes like, do I need a slot booking or not? It's about driver briefing and instructions that can be linked. It's about temperature requirements of transports also for loading and unloading, like the typical calendar thing. In summer, you have different loading times than in winter, and it's for previous load restrictions. So they are managed in Loady. Our customers use them along the entire process. So it means that from customer order to the delivery of goods, part of this data is needed, and our customers are not only the shippers and first distributors, it's also about the carriers, because they need this data for transport planning and dispatching. And for sure, usually they integrate it in their tools because the process itself is already established. But just to tell you, this is what is in Loady, and it is managed, as I just said, on the one hand via API in tools and applications, on the other hand in online views for dispatchers and drivers. So they can just click on a link and then they get in their language. It's about 17 languages we have right now. They can get their information and they can see everything to really have a great onboarding and, if possible, a needless process of loading and unloading on site. So currently we have about 500 locations in Europe, USA, Canada, and Mexico, meaning they are already managing their data in Loady. And we are now starting with LATAM, and in 2027, our customers plan to start with us in Asia. We have about 10,000 products onboarded. Our customers have onboarded about 30,000 business partners to have really end-to-end data relation sets. But the most important thing we are talking about today is that there are 20,000 products in this previous load restriction database, and that you can really start handling it. So if you see this right now and it says demo at the right hand, I won't do the demo now because we have it means yesterday, we went live with a new feature, and I said, oh, I do it by a video first, but I've decided to really show it to you live in the tool. So I will just go through the visions. So if we think about previous load restrictions, as you can see, they are managed in Loady as part of the master data. And they have like the typical information, kind of product, which product group or pre-product is it, cast number, etc. It's the cleaning process. If it's allowed, if it also registers if there is a customer-specific restriction, because sometimes the products, the previous products are allowed, but one customer says, I don't allow it, so you will find it, or your customer will end it here. And you see a number. And the right hand, it's about 1,249 restrictions for that product. And that's exactly coming because of the customer-specific restrictions. So the important thing is, what can you do now with this data? Well, first, it's stored in Loady, or it's onboarded in Loady. It replaces the previous Excels. But then if we think about a carrier, or if we think about a distributor, first of all, you can search it in the database. This is, for example, how a carrier gets access to the data if they have nothing to do with Loady. They already can access this database, and you see it at the right hand. And by the way, the QR code works if you want to look it up. It's like a kind of checklist where they can, well, navigate through the data and look it up. First part, this is like the overall one fits for everybody. It's a temporary link. It works without any authentication, but then after 2 weeks or 1 week, in this case next week, it expires. Second thing, if the user is on Loady, well, there is the possibility to search in the database, which is already nice, but still, let's say if you have several transports, it's really annoying because you need to look it up every time individually. But at least it gives you, let's say, a kind of proactive answer. And the third thing that I'm showing now is the so-called ePLR check. And it's really like a revolution for chemical logistics, because there have been many initiatives of the large chemical companies to find some kind of way on how to handle them. And well, we just build it. It means that and first companies are starting with this, they now offer the carriers to do an online check before to get like a kind of proof. Yeah, the check is right. And then they do the same check at the gate, but they are already discussing on managing this proof like a certificate also integrated in the electronic cleaning certificate directly, so they don't even need to do it at the gate, and the truck can, with an automated gate control, pass in. So if you are working with a supplier like BASF in Ludwigshafen or in Antwerp, you will finally see exactly or hear about this, because it's already in place and it starts from now on and will really go live with the entire solutions. They have much more in July. So how does this check work? It means, well, you have the possibility to enter the product, to select which one you are supposed to deliver. And then it's about getting feedback if the product is allowed. If first, how many products do you need to track, previous loads? Then if it's okay or it's not okay, and we have some kind of no data workflow included, or it will be included in June, by June, because this helps for all those products that are not there to handle them directly over to the PLR data manager. Could be yours, could be your suppliers, and then to get the response, yes, I can use it, no, I can't use it. So if we think about how it works, and this is where I will jump to the demo, and where I just will show you exactly how the test works. So I will jump out here. I hope this works, and we'll go into the tool. So this is Loady. I don't want to show entire Loady right now. There is this master data structure where you have the sites, the loading point, unloading points, you have the products. The products have their previous load checks. For sure, this is a dummy company. And then you have the ePLR check. And first, I showed you the previous product database. You see here it's 1,600 at this moment. We have about 20,000 more that are now in the pre-stage with the final lookup, and they will be available by the end of the month. So this is really a neutral database where you don't see the producers, but you see the substances, and then, well, you can match against them, and they are classified. You see with the CAS number, they are classified with the categories, so it really works. And when you do the ePLR check, I will just do it for this company. So if I have to transport, for example, or if I bought from Chemco company product butyl acetate, then first of all, what the tool gives me back is how many products need to be checked and the general information that is stored. So what's allowed, what's not allowed, and then something about the cleaning requirements, forbidden cleaning procedures, etc. And now I can think about, this is interesting, but for sure a carrier, and you probably too want to add your own reference number. Usually this is coming by the ERP, but in my case, I will do it like tank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is what I'm checking, because this may be the tank that I'm using. And then I can now say, okay, the previous product in this tank has been, let's say, Viscoplex. And now I run the check, and it says, oh, okay, you cannot use it because Viscoplex is not allowed. So now I can do a new check. Maybe I don't use this one, but I use this one. And then I say, okay, the new product I have is like, well, let's start writing. And I run the check, and it says, okay, polyol, this one is allowed. And it also explains how do I need to clean the tank before, and then I can directly run it. And in the case, now I already have my answer, so I wouldn't check back. But in the case that there was a no data flow, like for example, if my previous product was this one, and it's not in the database, this is where the new workflow will start, and it will say, okay, I don't know hexamol, there is no restriction phrase, but also no allowance. So I will have the possibility as a distributor or as a carrier to add the safety data sheet, or let's say the relevant parts of the safety data sheet, because it's not with the producer, etc., of the previous product that has been loaded. And then the data manager of the producer will directly say yes, no, or what's happening. So just to show it to you, it's extremely rich. It will really enable reduce lots of pain, and it will make, in general, help to reduce costs. I will go back to the presentation. So because I've just, you will get a handout. I think that's then with some screenshots if you want to see a further demo for sure. But the important thing maybe is, what does this mean for chemical distributors? Well, on the one hand, it makes it much easier to manage multiple suppliers, and it makes it much easier to ensure that your carriers meet your suppliers and your customers' digital loading and gate requirements, and also to ensure product safety. And for sure, there is a possibility, a high possibility of being compliant and of reducing dependency, because it just means that the data is there. It can be worked out. You can have your own products. You can ask your suppliers to give you access to this database. And so finally, you can run the check, or your carrier can run the check, and you can have it. And basically, that was a short presentation just about where we are today. As I said, I've not entered the entire database and rest what else is there, but it's like, yeah, we understand, or the feedback we get is that it will be really like a kind of silent revolution for chemical logistics. And I give back to you, Diana.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. It's very interesting tool that you described. I honestly, as non-chemical distributor, I didn't know that there were such services required. I understand that it's a complicated process just to handle chemicals per se, but the company name explains basically what you do, very straightforward. So it's very easy to remember. Everything that is connected with loading, unloading, it's Stephanie will help you out with that. So I think we can move to the next stage of our event, which is the panel discussion. And I would ask here to everyone to open your cameras and join. And Bio. Okay, great. So thank you everyone again for your presentations. It was very interesting to hear. And we basically covered everything we wanted to hear from you, and it was nice to see how your tools are working, and I hope that Tom next time can actually show us the demo of the working one. So I would like to start with a simple question to all of you guys. So what is the current status of digitalization in your opinion? Where the industry is now, and is it accelerating in any way? Let's start maybe with Björn.
Yeah, that's of course very dependent on which company size we're talking, I think. So what we see is that often larger customers are further advanced on the digitization journey. So let's say around 1 billion in revenue or 500 million. And then often, if also around maybe the 200, 100 billion side, you find some quite advanced companies. And then it becomes a bit less once you go towards smaller players. But it really, in my and our experience, depends very much on the leadership, of course, and often family-owned companies, as there are many in the distribution space also, right? They use generational shift, for example, as an opportunity to innovate and look at new offerings. So I would say, there's always a fast mover part, of course, and then there's also a good amount of the industry that is still, especially when it comes to data and data readiness, catching up. And that catching up, I think, has to really happen very quickly, because those who are data ready can embrace new technologies such as artificial intelligence, and those who are still running behind will risk getting in certain areas, and not being at a disadvantage essentially.
Thank you, Björn. Christoph, I saw you nodding to what Björn is saying. Maybe you would like to continue? And that...
Yes, it reminds me a slide I saw before the COVID at the Fecc, the conference on adhesives, and there was a consultant showing this curve or where all the industries were in the digitalization process, and the chem industry was really lagging behind with agriculture and governmental services. So I was like, okay, maybe it's an external company, taking working with all these industries, saying that. So I said, okay, maybe he's right. And actually, what we saw in the history of SpecialChem is that, yes, indeed, we are lagging behind as an industry. There was really an acceleration during the COVID because we were forced to do things digitally much more with customers and internally also. And everybody saw it accelerated the digital maturity of many companies, 2022. But because still our industry is very much a risk adverse and asset driven industry. So what Stephanie showed, show it. Just even yourself, Diana, you were surprised by all the different legal requirements just to transport products, so to use them, to produce them. So very risk adverse. But I must say, I have been very surprised and pleasantly surprised last year, beginning of the year, when I saw so many of my clients coming to us and in the discussion saying, wow, you know what? We are now using Copilot. We are using ChatGPT. We are using the LLMs in an adoption speed that I was, really very surprised of. And of course, that was a first level of usage. It was not an enterprise usage, but more personal usage. But they were immediately embracing this and without any reservation. And I felt there was really a change in the pattern I've been observing over the years. But definitely now this industry is catching up with the others. Yes, for sure.
Okay, thank you, Christoph. Tom, as a very innovative startup, which is using all the resources there are, would you like to tell, is it accelerating in your opinion or not?
Well, I think I can only agree with what has been shared by my colleagues. Let's say, I think what is often they try to make the mirror match between the chemical industry and others. And I think also the chemical industry is highly complex. And I think that is also what also Stephanie clearly indicated, because it's not like drop shipping. The concept will remain equal. However, the regulations and all the restrictions we have on top is so dynamic and so complex. And I think that is why I think there is some lag. Although I see certain elements, so especially when we talk, I think the team of Sybilion can see that, especially when you look into the sales and the purchasing departments, they're, in my opinion, quite far ahead, significantly further than other parts. And I think that is also connected to whether or not you're more close to the asset, I think. Because once you're, of course, deep inside a chemical plant or on the site, and you have to handle with daily operations that there is almost no way to automate unless because there is the investment discussion behind. I think it's a bit rough to visualize the entire industry as a whole and say, okay, where do we stand? I think it makes more sense to start indeed separating functions and try to highlight the functions that can benefit the quickest from the digital advancement. And I think companies are indeed getting more and more open to that. I have to agree with Christoph there that we are also now seeing that certain departments are sort of stepping out. It's no longer we are part of one big company. There are certain departments that realize they can take a next phase without having, let's say, to bring everybody along. I think that can be widely accepted. And I think that is, for me, it's one of the turning points. And especially it's sort of a mixed feeling where the stress in the world is sort of pushing companies to take more risk. as Christoph clearly mentioned, the chemical industry has been deeply risk adverse for like 50 years. I think now they're realizing if they don't do anything, they fall really behind. And I think that is sort of helping us to, especially on certain elements. I think also with the work of Stephanie, you see on the logistical part, there are major steps that are being taken and can be taken without really having to interfere with let's say local site logistics or local site discussions. So I think that is the nice thing. They're starting to realize that certain elements can really accelerate.
Thank you, Tom. Indeed, I agree with you. Stephanie, would you like to follow up to this?
Yeah, I'd love this.
topics?
I really like the topic, and especially because I think my impression is really differentiated because we are talking about a large ecosystem. So we have the big players, we have the smaller players in terms of chemical producers. We have the chemical distributors, also different sizes and different, let's say, level of maturity. And then we have the carriers as another driving part. So it's like everybody's in the same, and we see that there are some that are really highly digital and talking about automation, and there are others who could not even dream of it. We also see some smaller companies, especially in the carrier part, they are really keen to move on and to get digital, which I think is like a kind of competitive element now, because they say, we can do it. We don't have, the big blue elephant called S/4HANA in our current resource, let's say, limitation field, because this has paralyzed a bit the IT part overall, because it consumed nearly all available resources. I think larger companies will confirm it. It's like the first thing you always hear when you talk to the companies since, I don't know, 10 years about. Maybe just one thing about the current market situation, because I absolutely agree there is some pressure coming. What I get back from the market is that I have now first customers or potential customers calling. They say we really need to sit down because we have downsized our business. Downsizing sounds first nice. We need to save costs. Yeah, less people, smaller teams, less resources, and now they have a critical political or economic geopolitical situation, and their main competitors are knocked out because they can't deliver to their customers. So now the customers order the same product to our customer, and they are not able to serve, because they say it's not only because of production, it's because we have downsized so much and now we are not able to grow. So digitization is really kind of limiting factor when you talk about scalability, a real heavy factor, and especially if you have lots of manual things behind, in manual steps in your process. Yeah.
It's always complicated to follow all the steps, and it's hard to follow regulation nowadays, because new restrictions are still coming up every day, basically. So we understand the hurdle. And good that you mentioned maturity in the beginning of your answer, because I would like to ask about, is it digital maturity is a hurdle or not? And do you know about the digital maturity? Do you need me to read out, because I Googled it, what this digital maturity means? Stephanie?
I mean, I have not Googled it.
No?
If you want to give an explanation,
Okay.
But for me, it means I have data, I have an understanding of how to interoperate with my peers, and I have certain digital solutions. So it's a clear governance structure on IT, and that enables me to build needless digital processes. But give your explanation, please, in case I'm wrong.
It's not mine. It's purely Google.
We at SpecialChem, we are classifying the industry players in 4 levels of digital maturity. I can tell. So the first level is analog. So people that are doing business like before the age of digital, basically. Then you've got the people who are doing business using digital means, outbound means. So typically doing campaigns, interacting with teams and the likes with customers, so digital interactions basically. Then we've got the teams that are the third level, so companies that are able to do business, being reachable and being, let's say, welcoming business initiated by customers themselves digitally, and this is quite a shift. Inbound, we call them the level 3 of digital maturity, and then the digital first. And digital first look like what Stephanie is mentioning here. So companies that are really digitally enabled, that have digitized all their data, or most of it, in all the domains of data, customer data, product data, transaction and data, and many others, transportation data, etc., in systems that are interoperating, and that are then proposing internally and externally access to the information, to people, to systems, to AI. So we call them digital first, but there are very few digital first for the moment.
Okay, so is it a hurdle or not?
It is a hurdle to digitalization, yes. If you don't know, the more digital you are, the more you want to be digital in a way. So if you are at the very bottom, starting is a big hurdle. It's a big energy required to start the transformation. Once you are in it, like in an S curve, in chemistry, okay? Well, when you are at the very beginning of the transformation curve here, it's very painful, very long and costly. The more you are digital, the more you are getting, mature, and you can digitize faster with less resources and see more results. So yes, my answer is yes, very much related to digitalization and with maturity, yes.
Tom, do you share the opinion of Christoph?
Yeah, I fully share. And I think on top of that, I think to even, let's say, to the people watching in general, to the members, of course, it depends on company size and everything that we already previously discussed. However, I do agree with Christoph. You have to select a region and you have to start. And I think already in this panel we see we were all, of course, with a digital focus, but we are very diverse. And that's why digitalization, and there will be many other solutions, and there will be many other solutions and service providers out there. I think I know that you, Diane, very well also from our discussions about regulatory and others. I think it's a similar approach. You cannot expect as a small company that you solve from one day to the other all those requirements. Select a region, start focusing, connect with service providers that match with your demand, start building that knowledge, start understanding what it really means to implement digital, let's say, ecosystems or solutions into your company. And then I fully agree with Christoph. Once you have sort of the first steps taken, the rest will I will not say accelerate, but of course it will help you to structure the other decisions. And I think that is where I hope that also, like I said, me or the other partners can help, just sort of choose. Sybilion was clear more on predictive marketing and strategy, with SpecialChem more on internal databases, Loady with pure stronger focus on this. It's up to anybody in the end to choose. There is no golden rule which one has to come first. I do fully agree. Do not let it linger. Because I think falling behind, I think it's with many of the classical adoption curves. If you really fall behind, it will become a risk. There are, of course, the drivers. There are the ones that drive the transition. That is always fine. I think companies have to be aware that they do not fall really into the tail segment of the transformation, because then it will at some point be difficult to interact with your ecosystem, with your suppliers, with your clients. Once they have taken the step and you're really falling behind, they will almost require you to. And if you have no idea where to start, then you're really then it becomes, I think, very, very tricky.
Thank you, Tom. Viol, do you have, maybe you will have the controversial opinion on digital maturity?
Controversial.
Just asking.
I wouldn't say that it's particularly controversial. I mean, I think one reason that maybe the chemical distribution space or the chemical industry as a whole, that we stayed more traditional, right? That tends to link to the fact that the people in this industry understand the products they're dealing with, they understand the regulatory requirements, they understand a lot about formulation. There's all this additional knowledge, which is protecting essentially the competitive advantage of the industry, right? But of course, why now to agree with what everyone here already said, right? The point is, especially I think once more in this age where we are talking about AI agents that can tailor decisions towards your industry and towards your company in particular, be it in any, from logistics to the market side, to the production side. To get those tailored insights, you need to have your digitization journey in order. And that means you need to have your data structure and all these things in order. And the quicker you get one part in order, the easier it is to then add on later and to expand to other areas. So I can only support what was said so far.
Okay, my trick didn't work here. But since you talked about AI, let's talk about AI. So what impact of AI do you see on digital business landscape? I know it's not a controversial question this time. So what are perceived threats that are legitimate in your opinion? Maybe this time we can start with Christoph.
Well, actually, I see much more opportunities than threats, to be honest with you. So, but
okay.
Yeah, okay. Since I also want to answer your question on threat. So, threat, obviously, there is a threat of being left behind, not using AI. In general, I don't like to say, to make people feel scared, like because they are lagging behind and they're going to be out of business. It's really not by way of seeing the world and presenting what we sell, honestly. Now with AI, there is really, the acceleration can be so massive of every aspect of the company, everything, basically everything, including places where you don't think it's possible. It will be highly possible to improve processes, to make things less risky, more predictable, more measurable, anticipate more, reduce cost. So the risk is, even though I don't like that, but is not to adopt it at, let's say, at scale. What I see today is usages that are not at scale, usages that are individual usages of AI, principally LLMs. And basically there is a reduction of AI to LLMs today. And AI is much more than that, of course, but okay, at least that is the most visible part of the iceberg. And yeah, typically being not able to use that at scale at the company level, I see that as a risk. It's complex, but if you are there, and if your competitor is using that this way and you are not, I see that as a big change a big change of paradigm, honestly. And then, of course, there are the usual threats regarding security, regarding data leakage. Of course, yes, but a tad more than today. Today already you got these risks, and there are ways to manage the risk of data leakage also with AI. Yeah, in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you, Christoph. Stephanie, do you see this threat in AI or not?
Well, I see threats in AI. For me, the most dangerous one is that people now think that AI does everything just because it's artificial and intelligence. And sometimes when you're asked, why do you build a solution if AI can do this? It's like, okay, let's go 5 steps back. You've seen the database. We talk about master data. So this is for me a crazy situation that you really need to know where the advantage of AI is. And you need to explain it, and you need to explain, in our case, for example, it's now when we really get advantage out of AI because we have so many things onboarded that we can train machine learning, we do the onboarding of the data sets, We do, you know, like the quality checks with AI. We do the automatic translations of the driver briefings. There is a new project, also context related. So there are many opportunities, but you really should think about where do I need it? And yeah, for sure, it helps in all areas. I absolutely agree, Christoph. It doesn't matter if you are in programming or if you are in marketing, in communication, in data management, but it's really trash in, trash out. So you need to know what you want to do. And I really love people who still at least review what they are writing or producing, because yeah, it gets very wrong without the right criteria. Let's say it like this.
Indeed, I fully agree with you on that. AI still lies sometimes, and you have to check it. You have to give very specific request. You have to write the correct prompt. You have to know which AI to use. Björn, would you like to tell? You already told us actually what is the difference between AI and your tool, but maybe you can elaborate on this a little bit more.
I wouldn't say it's a difference, right? It's of course we are using AI models. We just tailor them for particular use cases, because what you mentioned, Diana, right? That is the risk with some of the open source or openly available models, that they're not really fine-tuned to certain use cases. And I mean, I think anyone is aware now that you need to double check the output you get from ChatGPT or from Claude and these big companies, because they might be very correct, but they could also have some facts in there that are not very correct. I would say that from our point of view, there is a lot of AI agents that are being employed to optimize work. Right. So, for example, in a call center kind of approach where you have voice agents that then interact with customers. And I think that's one of the most heavily optimized use cases nowadays. But then on the other end, we also saw some very different applications. Like what we are doing is actually we're saying there's a real space in decision support, and essentially better surfacing decision critical information so that decision makers can take those decisions more informed and more timely. And I think these are sort of the two ends of the agent spectrum. So you have a spectrum that's very much focused on automation, and another one that's more on empowering existing users in making smarter and more informed decisions.
Okay, Tom, would you like to tell us, are you using AI in your new tool, or is it replacing AI with a better solution?
Well, I think I would not dare to say we're going to replace. Indeed, we use AI as a supportive function. I think most of the comments are in the same direction, because I think one of the major threats with implementing AI to, let's say, haphazardly is that you're going to lose control. Because although the system, of course, can assist a lot, I think Stephanie and Christopher were also clear about that. If you have the wrong input, you can almost not expect the system to autocorrect. I've not seen any major proof of that until today. Confident maybe in the future they might be able to do so, but at the moment, if the wrong input is given, the output is skewed. And that's why I think one of the threats is that people expect a huge acceleration. However, I think you always have to make sure that you have certain, let's say, internal parameters in place to double check what is coming out. I think that is one thing. For me, it's a bit like, if you really look on a longer time scale, we started studying with books. Then we had to transition to Google, where let's say the knowledge was more readily available. You don't have to walk to a library to get a certain book. I think now AI is the next phase, where you say, instead of having the knowledge readily available, you can even ask the system to sort of summarize for you. You're just, it's a next phase. And I think it's better to start utilizing it like as a tool to help you summarize the vast knowledge out there, instead of directly saying, hey, take everything you see and tell me what I should do. I think that is a step that I would be very cautious with. I think that's where, for me, AI it shines light on possibilities that I've also not, let's say, heard of before. We use it most often, let's say, in what can we do with a certain product. So for sure I see a lot of potential. I think with any larger technology advancement, it has to be used with the right boundary conditions. I think for me, I wrote down, when you really want to move towards predictive tools, you need a solid master database. And I think for the larger companies in the audience, make your own. That for me is really a key element. I think also Björn was very clear on that. The larger data models that are public are getting a little bit polluted. And I think that is the natural consequence. The same that also the internet has some of those elements in there. If you really want to build, I think partly related to also the solution of Christoph, start building your own, have the good foundation, and let the tool utilize your internal knowledge. And you can always decide which elements from outside you want to bring in, market data, other elements. However, I would be very cautious opening it up completely. But again, that is up until where we are today, let's say, my opinion.
Yeah, I like how you every time you speak, you conclude with some very practical steps what to do.
Yeah, but I think that's where we are today, unfortunately. It's good to have certain. I think we all dream of a certain perfect solution where, in the end, practically all our solutions should be interconnected. I know that SpecialChem is already connected to Agilis, but in the end, we're all part of the bigger bubble. You have the logistics, you have the product master data, you have the predictiveness of the market situations, you have. Let's hope I also am part of the bubble at some point with some more niche applications, but they're all interconnected. And I think it's extremely well that everybody is building, of course, their own suite. But as you mentioned, at some point, this will be a huge lump moving forward. That will then hopefully make the transition complete.
Indeed. So when we were talking about losing control to AI, I for a second thought maybe you were was thinking about losing control of the world,
No, it's not
take
that
over the world for a second.
No, I have seen already certain, also when I use it, I sometimes use it also to help me summarize certain text. I call them flaws, and I think because if you start then asking on top of the flaws, I think that's where the risk lies, but the larger risk, especially for the bigger companies where it's several business units interacting with each other. Logistic teams talking with supply chain teams, with procurement teams. If they're all interacting in a similar way, you're adding the error. I think exactly it's sort of the work that Björn is trying to to remove again from the same decision-making tree. But yeah, intrinsically we build in 2-3% error along every decision making. So of course, if you do similar with AI, you just do it faster. I think that's the biggest risk at the moment. I don't think AI is ready enough to sort of remove that part and then do it fast. It's just doing what you're doing today faster.
That's interesting to hear that you reply almost like in the same way to all of my questions, even though all of your tools and the fields that you're working are so different and so diverse, and there is no overlap in any case, like same industry but very different solutions. Of course, there are different needs for every company. So it's very interesting to see that you are still on the same page, even though you are so different. And okay, sorry, I took a bunch of time already from our webinar, so I will be concluding a little bit here because we have only 4 minutes left. So if there are any questions regarding your tools, we will forward them to you guys if you don't mind. Great. So maybe you can then also answer them on more personal level. So I would like to highlight that today we went from fighting the overproduction with the very sustainable solutions like reduce, reuse, recycle, basically with Tom. Then we went to and outsmarted the uncertainty or market uncertainty with Björn. And we went transitioned to the transport planning, displaying, and actually handling the restrictions with Stephanie. And we heard about very impressive database, master database, if I'm not mistaken, of special chemicals, which is very relevant topic right now when the raw materials are so rare and so not easily acceptable. So I would like to thank you all guys for joining us today, for presenting your tools and your solutions and answering all of my very naughty questions. Thank you for your cooperation and being FCC members. We're very proud to have you on board. So I would also like to invite everyone who is here to our second session of Digital Days, which will be held tomorrow. So see you guys. We will follow up with all the information that we talked today to you via emails. And thanks to Nina, who was taking care of all the technical things on the background. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.